When you think of live animal presentations, you normally think of entertainment at the sake of the animals. But that's not at all what I've witnessed the 3 times I've seen Animal Tales present. John Hamm, the Southeast owner of Animal Tales, is going to share with us how his business is inspiring kids to respect wild animals and teach them how and how not to interact with them. And while wild animals should not be pets, stay to the end where he'll give parents tips on what to consider before buying any sort of family pet. Animal entrepreneur, wildlife liaison, can calm a crowd of first graders in a single shush. John Hamm, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thanks
You're
for having
welcome. And who's your animal friend with you?
Right now we have Isaac with us. I'm going to turn around here and get him unhooked. He's kind of wrangled in there. Isaac here is a kinkajou.
Kinkajou.
No, I didn't say Pikachu. I said kinkajou.
Kinkajou, okay.
And, are you familiar with kinkajous at all? I know you've gotten to see Isaac
I
once
saw
before.
him once, yes.
Yeah, kinkajous are in the raccoon family. They look like monkeys and lemurs, but they're in the raccoon family, and they are from South America. Now, they are nocturnal animals, so I have them in this bag here. Aww. This bag may look familiar. It was donated to us. It used to be a purse for a long time. And there's a cute face right there.
Aw, hey, buddy. Oh, my gosh, he's so cute. He looks like a tiny bear.
Yeah, they're actually called honey bears, because typically they will eat a lot of honey, although they're not a bear.
Not a bear at all. That's so cute. And so you said he's more related to a raccoon and less to a monkey.
Yeah, they're in the raccoon family.
Wow. Where are they from?
South America, northern parts of South America, and they are primarily arboreal animals, so spending all their time in the trees.
Wow, that's so cool. So does he have like he can grab
the prehensile
things?
tail? Yep. The prehensile tail can hold his whole body weight. You'll actually see pictures of kinkajous all the time just hanging by their tails, and he'll do it at home. He'll hang upside down, eat his food. He's the cuteness of cuteness.
The cuteness of cuteness.
You never get tired. We've had him for 3.5 years, and every day you're like, dude.
Aw. So how does that work with your business? How do you decide what animal to bring into the presentation? And
So there's a lot of factors. So a lot of times it starts out with a theme of a show. Every summer we do a summer library reading theme where we match the animals with a theme that the library is going with to hopefully inspire kids to read more books. And so that's where it starts. Then after that we start looking at what's legal, what's safe, what's okay to travel with. Are they going to be healthy and happy traveling with us for days and days on the road? And like I said, I've had Isaac here for 3.5 years, and he's absolutely amazing. This is what he does. He pops his head out. He looks super cute, all factor. And then you see the kids in the crowds go, wow, I've never seen anything like that before. What is that? It's a kinkajou. And then they go check out books, and they go read, and they go learn. And the hope for that is to inspire them to get in the routine of reading. So whether they like animals or not, maybe they read about this, and then they start reading about other things, and it gets them in that routine.
That's really cool. I could see where that would inspire a lot of kids. I was definitely inspired by animals as a kid. I wanted to work for National Geographic. And
Yeah, I remember you say something about your background and wanting to work with animals.
always. But by work, let's put some heavy air quotes around that, because mostly I just wanted to know their names and, entertain them and be like Snow White, basically.
Yeah.
Really nothing scientific at all. So you had mentioned that you're actually, even though you present with exotic animals, you're not a fan of having exotic animals as pets. Explain that.
It's more of just do your research. The problem with the exotic animals as pets is they're hard to take care of. This is my life. The reason he is so good and he's so awesome is this is all I do every day. I work with him, I work with my other animals, and even then it's still a lot of work that I have a network of people around me, my wife and my presenters and my interns. All of them spend time with the animals doing enrichment and training. My wife spends around 3 hours a day with this animal. Every day.
Oh my gosh.
Every single day. And because of that bonding is why he's so nice and so kind. And if you have kids, if you have a job, if you go to school, you're not going to be able to put the amount of time into these animals that we do. They can make pets to the right owners, but typically adults. With kids, I just don't recommend the kinkajou. They're just too dangerous.
Well, 3 hours a day with the animal. Most people are working a lot of hours during the day and they're not even at home.
Yeah.
And then they have other responsibilities when they come home. So even their dogs don't see them 3 hours a day.
Exactly.
So yeah, I could see where that would not be a good fit.
Yeah,
So-
but I have met amazing exotic animal owners throughout the years. There's breeders that breed these animals for zoos and other educators, and they're super passionate. They do everything to the T of the health care and training and everything they can do to keep them happy. And that's where we purchase our animals from, is from captive breeders in the United States. Nothing we get is wild caught.
I was wondering about that. Okay.
Yeah, obviously at some point these animals were all wild caught, but now the regulations are so good about importation from animals out of state that it's very difficult for anybody to get an animal that's wild caught.
I read that the kinkajou is in decline in the wild because of the popularity as pets.
Popularity as pets has really gone up with the kinkajous, which is it's very sad. We actually work with a nonprofit called Kinkatopia. It's the only kinkajou nonprofit in the country. It's out of Boca Raton, Florida. I think that's right. But anyways, she actually takes in kinkajous, and it's just a constant flow at this point of people inquiring with her about rehoming their kinkajous because they get them as a pet. Next thing you know, in the middle of the night, they're yeep, 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 all night long. And it's not fun. It's not fun. It's a lot of work to train them, to keep them happy and give them enrichment that they need, so they don't do that. And people don't have the time. Like I said, you got kids, you got jobs, you got all the other things that are going to distract you to put in the proper training and care for these animals. And unfortunately, they get rehomed. Another big problem is deforestation with the kinkajous. That's one of the number ones.
Yeah, I would imagine, because they're in Central and South America. And as we know, in South America right now, there's a lot
Yeah, the fire,
happening there.
everything.
The fire, yeah, with Brazil. So you said train them. So for the purposes of your presentation, tell us behind the scenes, how do you train the animals to tolerate a room full of screaming children?
So controlled chaos. I actually learned this from Atlanta. So you know Atlanta Falcons that fly around the Falcon Stadium? Are you familiar with that? So I went there and did a training with them, and how they train their birds is they would take these loud sound systems and blare music. They would have people stand and spread their legs out, wave their arms, and scream at the top of their lungs. And they would train the birds to fly through their legs to get them used to controlled chaos.
Oh, wow.
So that when you take them to a stadium, you got people reaching up, you got people throwing things. They're getting used to all this craziness all the time. And so that's kind of what we do. We started out small. We started out training our animals by taking them to birthday parties where you're like 10 to 15 kids. And then we go to libraries, which is 60 to 120 kids. And then we eventually go to the schools with them, 300, 600 kids at a time.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, so it's kind of a slow progress through all that. And Isaac, you can see him show and show again to where
he's
sits on the shoulders.
underwhelmed. I'm a little insulted right now.
He just doesn't care.
How long does it take to train them to tolerate?
Every
the
animal's
schools?
different. So with reptiles, I can train a reptile in a week. Boom. I can get a snake, take him to a show next week, and be good with him. Animals like the kinkajou, they're constantly being trained. Like I said, he's constantly getting bonded with. He's constantly getting worked with. I can put a snake away and not touch him for a week and go to a show. There's no way I could do that with any of the mammals or birds. I'd have to constantly spend time with them.
Yeah, that would. Have you had anything really crazy happen during a presentation?
No, I've learned a lot through the years. So I started out in the Birmingham Zoo, worked there for 4 years, did programs there. I went to a reptile zoo for 4 years, did programs there. So I got to see a lot of the mistakes that were made by other people, myself, and so on. And so when we started this business, there's a lot that I had already gotten out of the way. And in 10 years, we've been very happy, no bites at all.
No big funny animal mishaps.
No, the funniest one, this clicks in my brain, is we do a skit sometimes with a big snake where we have kids help us come up and hold the big snake. And first thought is everybody's, oh, the snake bit somebody. No, the snake didn't bite anybody. The kid was sick and threw up on the snake. Yeah. So it wasn't really the animal. It was.
Did the snake get sick from that?
No, the snake doesn't. The great thing about reptiles is they don't really hold a lot of things. They can get salmonella, obviously, usually in their fecal matter and so on. But typically they don't carry anything. They can't pick up anything.
Well, I can tell you there are certain members of the production crew that are very grateful that Isaac is here and not the snake today.
Not the snake.
I won't name any names or anything.
Not a big fan of snakes.
No, they're not.
And that's funny because snakes, there's a huge misconception about snakes, and it's all about education. Once you understand how they move, how they strike, how they work, you're not scared of it anymore. I always like to put it in this perspective of if you put me in a bathroom with a snake, there's nothing. There's no snake you can put in there, maybe a black mamba, but there's no snake in there really that I'm going to freak out about. But you put me in there with a bobcat, there's nowhere to go.
No.
There's nowhere to go. But we love mammals. We see mammals. We are mammals, so we associate with mammals. And that's why we're more sympathetic tone. Or somebody sees a tiger and somebody's go, oh, cute tiger. I want to go pet that. No.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
And something I noticed when I watched your presentation is your presentation skills are really good. I, for a living in Mary Kay, have presented many times to small and large groups, and Mary Kay leaders overall are just really good presenters, and they're really great at reading the crowd and engaging, and we know all these little tricks, you know, and I remember the first time I watched your presentation, I was like, he's doing all the tricks where, you know, people, they kind of wander off and then you have them repeat something or you ask them a question, or where did you learn all that?
Time. Lots of time. And funny story is I hated doing presentations. I was the one in class that would have the card shaking and couldn't get a word out. And then when I went to the zoo, I wanted to work with animals. And most animal people are not people. They're introverts. They want to work with animals. And I'm a weird exception. I do like people, but I didn't like doing presentations. But with being in the zoo, they force you to do it. They say, get out there, talk about the pelicans or talk about whatever. And so they were forcing me to do the keeper talks, and it was just absolutely horrible. I still remember being in front of 200 Boy Scouts with an alligator and going, this is an alligator. And then not having anything else, and just freezing up. And it just progressed from there, and they still kept forcing me to do shows and still didn't like it. There's one time I paid another employee to, gave him $20 to do my show.
Some people call that a bribe.
Yeah. I didn't want to do the show. And then eventually I started getting a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better, and it became easier. And then when we started Animal Tales, it just really clicked, and was able to really fine-tune my show. And still remember, there's a lot of bad shows there. It's like a comedy skit. You get up there, you say some of your lines, and people don't go with it, and they just do the...
Yep.
Okay.
That's a different episode of the podcast. We talked about that actually with the stand-up comedian. So how did Animal Tales come to be?
It started out with me and my old curator from the Birmingham Zoo. So when I worked there, we were very closely bonded. He left to go raise his family in Kentucky. I went off to work at a reptile zoo in Pennsylvania, where I traveled all over the country, got to live in different cities, and it's very cool. But I was ready to start a business. He called me up saying, hey, I want to start a business with animals. We want to do what we did in the zoo, but out at schools and libraries and places that don't get to see these things. So I said, good idea. So we went to Kentucky, started in 2009, did about 600 shows in our fifth year. And then after that, I got tired of living in Kentucky. So I wanted to move back to Pensacola, where I'm originally from, restarted the business here about 5 years ago. And I'm glad to say we're hitting about 600 shows this year.
How many shows a week do you normally do?
It varies. So during the summer is when our busy time is. We do 2 or 3 shows a day, 6 days a week. And I have 2 or 3 presenters out doing shows every day. Then during slower times of the year, this month's pretty busy. We'll have anywhere from 10 to 15 shows a week sometimes to 3 shows a week. It just varies.
So you talked a lot about schools and libraries, but do you do like private parties and stuff
Everything.
too?
I've
Really?
done a wedding.
What?
Yeah, over at Rails on Wright Street. I did a wedding over there, and just walked around with animals.
We can't go past that. You did. So you brought. What did you bring to the wedding?
A lot of stuff. We brought. She was open with everything. So we had snakes. We had the kookaburra. We didn't bring the kinkajou. We had wolves. We brought the wolf dogs. Oh yeah, a whole bunch of stuff.
And you did a presentation?
No, we didn't do a presentation. We more just walked around and socialized with people.
That's almost weirder.
But we were
really
still
unique.
we're still adamant about our education thing. We still did educate
Yeah.
there, so we talked to people about it. And they're like, I want to touch the animal, and we do have very exotic animals. They're not built for touching.
No.
When we say that, and the way I break it down for people, instead of they're saying no, don't touch, we do would you like to be touched on the face by everyone here?
Yeah.
And everybody's saying, wait, no, I don't want to be touched by. They're the same way. They don't want to be touched by strangers. Isaac here does not want to be touched by people that he does not know.
No.
And there's another factor in that with Isaac. He's susceptible to a thing called toxoplasmosis, which is a parasite that cats carry, feral cats. So if somebody touched that feral cat today, was petting on their outside cat, came and touched him, there's a small potential he could get it, and he wouldn't survive a week. So that's just a risk can't take.
No.
And like I said, they don't want to be touched in the first place. So we're not a petting zoo, and we establish that with people whenever they call to book programs. We do let people touch our reptiles typically, but the mammals and the birds, they just don't want it, so we don't make them do it.
Yeah, which I really liked that about your presentation, how you explained to the kids, and I think you even said something about painting turtle shells, and I think you may have mentioned, hey, that's a bad idea. Don't
Some kid, somebody.
It may have come up. Maybe a kid asked a question about that. But so when it comes to exotic animals and really just every sort of family pet, what are some things that parents should keep in mind when considering an animal as a part of the family?
It's your pet. As an adult, it's your pet. It's not the kid's pet. You can try to give them some responsibilities in the pet of, hey, change the water, clean the shavings, or feed them every day. But at the end of the day, it's your pet. You need to supervise that pet. You need to go in and check on it every single day. You can't assume the kid is going to take correct responsibility in that animal. And that's one of the biggest mistakes I see a lot of the time. I'll go into a birthday party and they'll take me upstairs and be like, oh yeah, da-da-da takes care of this animal, and I'll see issues all throughout the enclosure, and it's sad. And it's because they don't know. It's just miseducation and not studying enough before getting an animal, because there is that factor of when you walk in the pet store, you see that animal, oh, I really want that lizard. I really want to have that as a pet. And then you get it, you take it home, and then you got little bits of information from the pet store about how to properly take care of it. And you're missing some things, and that can cause health issues and other issues down the road.
Yeah, I think every parent I've talked to about pets has made some sort of remark about, well, Johnny, it's your animal, so it's your responsibility. And I appreciate from a parenting perspective what they're trying to teach the kid. But that's a really good point, that at the end of the day, it's like, well, mom and dad, you have another kid.
Yeah, it's your pet. The great thing, my stepsister, she's like, I want to get a dog for the girls. And I'm like, the dog is going to be your dog. She's like, no, the girls are great. They'll take care of the dog. And my nieces are fantastic. They're very intelligent, great, responsible girls. But at the end of the day, they're in school, they're kids, and that dog's going to be your dog. 3 months later, the dog's my dog.
You're right.
Yeah.
So what's something else that parents should consider? So first thing is, it's actually the parent's pet.
As far as handling, typically a lot of times with pets, you're wanting to get a pet that can be handled. Hedgehogs were a big pet for a while, in the pet trade. They're not fans of being handled too much. So look at the pets that's going to fit your family. What's going to be something that you can hold or pet, or let's say you travel a lot or you have a lot going on. The kid's got sports or something like that they got to do, and they're not going to be able to spend a lot of time with animals. That's where a reptile might be a better pet for you. One of my number one recommended pets are bearded dragons. They typically always have a very docile temperament. They're easy to take care of. You don't have to do something with them every single day. You just have to check their water, and they're pretty much good to go.
I would have not expected that to be your answer.
As far as best pets?
As far as best pets.
And it's great. I was at a library 2 nights ago, and she walks out with a bearded dragon sitting on her shoulder. They're just very docile, laid-back animals that most of the time just sit there and don't do anything.
Maybe they're cold.
Maybe they're cold, yeah. If they get too cold, yeah, that would be an issue.
Warm them up. They'll get more active.
Yeah.
So when it comes to exotics, is there any special things we should consider about exotic animals? Because as you mentioned, hedgehogs, I remember when that was a trend. I mean, I was in Nebraska at the time, but it was probably 2010, 2006, 2007.
And I see these fads going on and on and on. There's iguanas back in the 90s, and then in the 2000s, chinchillas, and then the sugar gliders we talked about earlier got big in the pet trade, and everybody gets bit by them. They're like, oh, these things bite me. Yeah, anything with a mouth can bite. And mammals bite the most. It's a funny thing. We were talking about snakes earlier, and I don't get bit by snakes. The snakes never bite me. The things that bite me are the mammals and the birds. They're the ones that have the stuff going on. There's a lot going on up there. And I do a skit during the show where I actually talk to everybody and say, well, what's the most likely thing to bite people and send them to the hospital? And everybody's like spider bites or snake bites. And spiders do bite a lot of people, but you don't typically go to the hospital for a spider bite. Number one thing to bite people, do you know what it is?
No.
People.
What?
People bite more people and send them to the hospital than any animal. Behind that's dogs and cats and
birds. That's gross.
So it's funny because I do that a lot in daycares, and all the daycare teachers in the back like,
yeah. They're like, amen, brother, amen.
Or if there's ever a police officer around, you always see him in the back go. And he's usually the one to answer it, because he's the one who
knows.
Yeah, they have to go deal with it all the time.
Oh, that's gross. Yeah. I wouldn't want that at all.
No, not fun.
So with your experience of being in the animal world, do you have certain feelings about zoos? Because I personally am like, I love zoos. They inspire me. Yeah. I remember being a little kid. The Omaha Zoo is awesome.
Yeah.
It's like in the top 10 zoos, I think, in the world. But I also sometimes when I go to a zoo, I feel sad for the animal, or I kind of wonder, well, how did they get the animal? And why does the animal look stressed or sad? And so from you working way more in that field, obviously, than I do you have opinions about that?
Yeah, so zoos go back and forth. There's good zoos, there's bad zoos. I mean, there's AZA accredited zoos, which are kind of the top of the line. If it's got an AZA accreditation, that means they have curators and other peers that come in from different facilities to inspect their facilities and criticize it. So they actually come in and say, hey, you need to put in a ceiling here. Hey, you're missing this here, or this animal needs this. There's some green on the ground there. You need to make sure to take care of that. It's very particular. So if you see AZA, it's usually a pretty good regulated zoo.
Where would it say that?
It says it usually anywhere next to their name. It will say it on their website on the bottom, AZA accredited, and usually they'll promote it everywhere. If they get AZA accredited, it's a lot of work to do. It's very expensive, and it's a lot of work. So it's all over the place when they are AZA. Like Birmingham Zoo's AZA. I'm not sure about the Oklahoma Zoo. I'm sure it is. A lot of the big zoos are AZA accredited. Then you get to the smaller zoos, and it's hard because I look at it as, is the animal happy, is the animal healthy, and you do see sad animals sometimes, and that could be a keeper transition. Sometimes you get a keeper in there that's been there for a while, and they decide, I don't want to be here anymore, and they miscare or something like that. But generally, most zoos are good, and they're doing good, and sometimes the good you don't see. You just see the public perspective of walking by, here's the animal. But behind the scenes, where's the money going? Sometimes the money's going to conservation here, conservation there. Sometimes there's breeding programs. There's a zoo in Central Park in New York that I went to, and I got to go behind the scenes, and there's this huge amphibian breeding going on for these animals that are getting extinct. Amphibians are the biggest rise of extinction in South America. And so in the zoo, they had this huge breeding program behind the zoo that's almost bigger than the entire zoo. And it's just raising all these different animals up that are getting extinct in the wild.
Wow. Yeah, I wouldn't have.
But you don't see that stuff.
No.
And they don't publicize it because people don't care about amphibians. People want to see a lion. People want to see a tiger and bears. And if you put an amphibian on exhibit, it's, okay, next.
It's cold. It's sitting there.
It's a cold-blooded. It's brown. Most frogs are brown. Most
Yeah.
toads are brown. They're not going to pop your eye and inspire you. But the other animals do. And the purpose of them is to get the people in the zoo. Those funds go to all the other things. And nowadays, like I said, you don't get a lot of wild-caught animals. Most of the animals that are in zoos that you see are from different breeding programs, and they're shipped over from animals that were maybe injured or couldn't be re-released.
Is that part of the AZA accreditation?
AZA accreditation is very strict, yeah. They're not wild-caught animals there. A lot of that's in the breeding program, and they're all associated. So when you're in AZA, they move animals around, you get credits for it. So let's say the Birmingham Zoo sends Oklahoma Zoo a giraffe. Then they get a credit for that, and then they'll get an animal from St. Louis Zoo. So they'll get an elephant from St. Louis Zoo or something like that. It's a transitional thing that they'll send the different animals to each other. And that's for breeding programs, because obviously you don't want crossbreeding or inbreeding, and so that helps with that.
I had no idea that. I really thought most of them were wild caught.
No.
I'm
I mean,
glad
at
to
some
hear they're
point,
not.
yeah, all animals were wild caught at
Yeah.
some point, but if you typically go to the zoos and ask them, and there's some elephants that I worked with that were in the zoo for 50-something years. This is a long time. And then a lot of the animals that I've seen, it's generations and generations that have been in the zoo.
Wow. What's something people misunderstand about your industry?
The petting thing is the number one thing. Every animal's there for us to pet and take pictures with. And the pictures I don't mind at all, but the petting thing is the big thing. That's the number one thing. Oh, Isaac here? Well, why can't I touch him? I should be able to touch him. And that's one of the biggest misconceptions we have is the pet. And then also seeing us with the animals and seeing how well trained they are and saying, oh, well, if he can do it, then I can do it. I can have that animal as a pet. And like we said,
But there's a
you
lot
don't have
behind the
time.
scenes
There's
that
a lot behind the scenes you don't see.
people don't know. Yeah. Even your licensing and your permits are
Yeah.
pretty complicated, right?
Yeah, we're USDA licensed, Fish and Wildlife license. Fish and Wildlife regulate pretty much everything that's Class 3. So a lot of my animals are Class 3 animals. And then USDA regulates mammals. So I get a USDA officer that comes and inspects me. She checks Isaac's cage, make sure his diet looks good, make sure he looks healthy, make sure he's got enough space. And there are USDA requirements on cage size and enrichment schedules and things like that they check on.
Yeah, that's pretty
And
involved.
I'm very happy to say 5 years, not a single quote at all. Nothing, I didn't get marked on anything.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and they'll get you on everything. I've had USDA officers in zoo settings that came in and it's like, oh, there's a little bit too much food on the cutting board. The fridge needs to be wiped off. They can be very, very particular.
Wow.
But I've been very fortunate that nothing.
That's good. What's something you want young people to know about animals?
Read about them, learn about them, read about animals you don't know. I mean, a lot of people, like I said, have never heard of a kinkajou before. I've done who knows how many shows in the past 5 years down here, and I still pull him out. Everybody's like, wow, I've never seen that before. Read about them, learn about them, because what that does is give you more respect for them. And same thing with the snakes. You're not a big fan of the snakes, read about them, learn about them. Once you're educated about them, you're more aware of what they're capable of, and you have respect for them and understanding for them, and it makes it easier for you to be around them.
Yeah, I agree. It definitely makes me feel more connected and aware of animals and and the interconnectedness that we're all really on the same flying rock out in outer space.
Yeah.
We should respect each other.
Yeah.
Well, that's so awesome. I hope that, where can people find you on social media if they want to check out your business?
Facebook is Animal Tales LLC. Instagram is Animal Tales SE. And then our website is animaledzucation.com. So it's a little play on words there. We take out the U, add zoo. So animaledzucation.com. Click on Southeast, and you can see all the different programs we offer. We do schools, libraries, special events, birthday parties. Name it, you book it, we come.
All the things, weddings.
Yeah, weddings.
Well, awesome. Well, if you're listening today and I did not ask John a question that you think I should have asked, message me, Instagram, Meredith for Real. I'll ask the question and then put out a bonus episode via email. And you can sign up for the emails at meredithforreal.com. This was awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Isaac, do you want to wake up, or did you go completely asleep? You want to get up real quick? Here, come up here. Come up here and say hello to everybody.
Oh.
All the way up, all the way up, all the way up. He's like,
He's like, I can't get out.
he's like, this is so comfortable.
Oh my goodness.
He's like, what are you wearing right now? Why do you have a headset on?
Isaac.
You have anything to say? Go check out Kinkatopia and donate.
That's right. He says that's a wrap.
Yep.
Woo!
Thank you.